Some terms I want to talk about as we go through this video that you're going to hear over and over again. First, dynamic critical incident. What's he talking about when he says dynamic critical incident or critical incident? That's a term that I've not heard before. Well, what it is, it's an incident that puts you in a position to decide whether or not you're going to draw and use deadly physical force. A lot of things happen when you have critical incident stress. Physiological changes. This adrenaline overload causes you to possibly lose memory, have tunnel vision in your eyes, have a auditory exclusion kind of phenomenon where somebody over here could be talking, yelling at you over here, and what you've got is focus on the primary target that you've acquired right here that is threatening you or someone you love. Your decision is to try to determine what is going on. Synthetically look around and get a hold of what you are doing here so that you don't have this auditory exclusion. It's a natural physiological change that happens due to adrenaline overload. Your tunnel vision, you've heard it a lot. Police officers chasing vehicles, elude situations like that. People pulling out on side streets that they just simply don't see. They'll pull out, a traffic accident will happen, and it'll be all over. We have to kind of take a synthetic response to that, or synthetic precautionary measures for that. So that's kind of how I like to think about it. What I have to do is when I have acquired a target or when I'm going to react, if I've already reacted or not, I have to kind of pull back a little bit and physically turn my head, look around, and see what's going on. This may not be the only threat that I have to deal with. He may have accomplices. He may have 2 or 3 accomplices. I want to go home that night. My job is to make sure that I've taken care of whatever I need to take care of. Whether that means using deadly physical force or whether that means getting the hell out of Dodge. There's some handgun safety rules that I'd like to talk about right now. The first handgun safety rule is always keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction. It doesn't matter what kind of firearm it is. If you're dealing with a red gun like this, a red tip plastic mock-up, if you're dealing with a Nerf gun, an airsoft, an unloaded, cleared firearm that you're using for demonstration, always keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction, away from instructors and away from everyone else. The second rule is keep your finger off of the trigger until you're on target, ready to fire. Too many accidents happen because people will grab the firearm and the first thing they will do is kind of mess around with the trigger and put their finger in the trigger. They've just cocked it and now it's ready to fire. All firearm accidents happen when the firearm is unloaded. You know what I'm talking about. The third rule is you're in possession of a firearm that can seriously injure or kill another human being if it's used maliciously, carelessly, or negligently. When we talk about a shot that is combat accurate, what exactly are we talking about? Well, what we're doing is talking about a shot that is in the upper torso, in the head area, a shot that significantly affects the target's ability to present a lethal threat. When we have a critical incident unfolding in front of us and we have decided to act, we have very little time to decide what we're going to do. There are 5 things that we have to do, which I'll go over later. But in every single shot that we take, we have to control all 5 of these things. There's a balance between speed and accuracy. The goal is balancing that speed and accuracy so no matter how much time we have to react and place a shot on the target, our shot is combat accurate. One of the things I'd like to talk about right now is critical incident stress. Critical incident stress is a term that we use when you've been involved in a critical incident. What happens physiologically to your body when you're involved in a critical incident? Things happen. As you are aware, you probably heard this fight or flight scenario. Well, there's actually a third one that we don't talk about a lot, and that's panic. So you've got three things: fight, flight, or panic. My job here in training you is so that you don't get into the panic mode and drop down like a deer fawn or a rabbit that has just been approached by a fox. We need you to be able to react appropriately, but there are physiological changes that occur in the body when you're involved in a critical incident, a dynamic critical incident. One of those is auditory exclusion. You've probably experienced this before when you get an adrenaline rush, that you end up being focused on the target in front of you, and you don't quite hear what's going on around you. Someone behind you or beside you or a friend could be yelling at them, yelling at you, and you don't hear it. It's this auditory exclusion that occurs when adrenaline starts pumping through your body. There's another phenomenon called tunnel vision. Police officers experience a tunnel vision quite frequently when they're on high-speed car chases. What happens is things tunnel in, and we lose perception as police officers. We lose perception of what's going on around us. A lot of times there's going to be traffic coming in off of side streets, or we're only focused on the car in front of us that we're chasing. We tend not to be focused on the side streets. Somebody pulls out of a side street, even though we have lights and siren on, and we end up in a car collision, a traffic accident, which could injure or kill somebody. This has happened dozens and dozens of times across the United States. So this tunnel vision occurs. What you have to do is actually physically step back and synthetically kind of change that so that you can eliminate that tunnel vision that you're experiencing. One of the techniques that we do is physically, as a concealed carry person, being involved in a critical incident, you may have just fired a shot, or you may be in a situation where you are about ready to fire a shot and you don't see anything else around you. Step back for a second if time allows. Take a look to the left and take a look to the right. Assess the situation before you go further, or after you've already done the deed. After you've already saved somebody's life, take a second and assess what's going on around you. Critical incident stress is a weird thing. Causes reasoning loss. The ability to reason kind of goes out the door. So you've got to take some steps to be able to do this. The most important thing that I can emphasize with you is practice, practice, practice. You know the term muscle memory. Muscle memory is nothing more than practicing a technique and getting it down so that it's second nature. No matter what happens out there, you're going to perform how you train. And if that training is zero, your performance is going to be zero. What I'm here to help you do is understand what you need to do as far as training so that you can overcome critical incident stress. One of the things I want to demonstrate is the difference between a single action revolver and a double action revolver. And I have here a Ruger 44 Magnum Super Blackhawk, and as a single action, it's called a single action for one thing and one thing only. When the hammer is cocked back and cycled, the trigger does only one job, and that is to drop the hammer. I'll demonstrate that right now. The handgun is loaded and ready to fire, so I'm simply going to demonstrate this here. All that did was drop the hammer. The hammer was back already. I hit the trigger, and the trigger dropped the hammer. Now I'm going to use a double action revolver right now. You can see this is a Ruger LCR, and there's no hammer on it. Basically, it's a spring-fed firing pin on the inside here. When I pull the trigger, it does a couple of things. It springs that firing pin back in the workings in the mechanism right here, and then when I pull it back far enough, it releases that basically in this way. You can see the cylinder turning or cycling, and it fires one round. And I can continue from here and fire another round in this method. We have three basic parts. Remember that the frame is what all of the other parts are attached to. The frame is the main component of all handguns. Revolvers, both single action and double action, and semi-automatic pistols. With some caveats and some customization issues and things like that for guns that are pretty much super modified and all. The frame is the main part of all handguns. We have a barrel, the frame, and the action. I'm going to go over each and every part on the single action. At first, we're going to talk about the frame. The back strap. This is called the back strap. This is called the front strap. These are the grip panels. Some grip panels are interchangeable and you can take them off, put custom grips on. This Super Blackhawk here was actually delivered to me with wood grips. The grips were taken off as it didn't fit my hand well. I put Pacmire grips on. It stabilized it and reduced the recoil for me quite substantially. So I really like these grips. They're rubber and they work well. Okay, back strap, front strap, grip panels, trigger guard right here. On a single action revolver, we have the barrel. Let's talk about the barrel first. We have the muzzle is always at the front end, the front post or front sight, rear sights or channels, depending on the nature of them. Some sights are adjustable for elevation and windage. Front sights usually are not adjustable. Within the barrel, we have rifling, which is lands and grooves. And that's the spiral ridges and valleys that go down the barrel. Take a look at the photograph that I'm going to be displaying here. You can see that the ridges and the channels kind of spiral right down through the barrel, and what they do is when the round is fired, under pressure the projectile is pushed forward into the barrel here, and as it goes down the barrel, the lands and grooves or ridges and valleys will grab that projectile and spin it, make a trajectory that is much flatter, and will give it a lot of distance as well. It's a lot like throwing a football. When you throw a football and you throw a spiral on it, it's going to go further and it's going to go straighter to your target. Talking about a barrel of a handgun, and the rifling, as it goes down the barrel and spins, it spins the bullet as it leaves the muzzle of the handgun. You can see behind me Riley throwing a football. It's a lot like the football trajectory when you throw the spiral on a football. It's very similar. Very similar to that. This is a hammerless double action firearm. It has, let's talk about the three parts: the frame, the barrel, and the action. On the frame, it has the back strap, the front strap, the grip panels, and the trigger guard. On this particular frame, you have the rear sights. You have the front sight on the barrel itself, which is actually kind of part of the frame as well, because the frame and the barrel are kind of combined. They're not movable sights on the rear. They're simply channels molded in, driven in to the back of the frame here. Let's talk about the barrel, which is this portion right here. The muzzle, the chamber which is contained in the cylinder, and we'll go over this cylinder in just a moment. Inside this 1.5 inch barrel, there are, or it might be a 1 3/4, there are rifling or lands and grooves, ridges and valleys that spin that projectile as it goes out the barrel. Okay, let's talk about the action on a double action revolver. It includes the trigger right here. It includes the hammer. In this case, does not have a hammer. It is a spring-loaded firing pin, which the trigger mechanism operates that spring-loaded firing pin. You have a cylinder release latch, which is right here. Let me turn this around so that you can see it. The cylinder release latch, where my index finger is, will push it and it pops the cylinder right out. I'm going to lose those dummy rounds if I'm not careful. Alright, so we can pop that back. This is the cylinder. In a double action revolver, the cylinder contains the chambers for each round that is fired. Now we'll talk about semi-autos, and the chamber setup is slightly different in that. Okay, back here, one thing I didn't show you is the ejector rod in a double action revolver. You'll see right here at the end there's a little thing that's called an ejector star. Watch what happens when my thumb pushes the ejector rod this way like a syringe. It pops all 5 rounds up at the same time. It moves them. That's called an ejector star. Okay? The purpose of a double action revolver is to accomplish a lot more tasks in one motion than a single action would. We have the trigger performing two tasks. The first one is to load the firing pin against the spring, and the second action is to drop the firing pin off of the trigger. And it looks a lot like this. We're loading the firing pin right now against the spring, and we release it, and that snap is the firing pin being spring loaded and releasing and hitting the back of the primer on the cartridge. Parts of a Ruger SR9C, or a semi-automatic pistol in any case, the frame, barrel, and action are on all semi-automatic pistols. The frame is the main part that all parts are attached to. You'll have a slide as well on semi-autos. That's the difference between an automatic, a semi-automatic, and a revolver. You're going to have a slide in a semi-auto. I'll describe what happens and the reason for the slide. But if you'll notice, on the frame, you have the back strap. Sometimes a back strap here, as in this Ruger SR9C, will have a little divot right here that allows us to take this back strap off here, turn it over, and widen or narrow down the grip for a smaller hand or a larger hand, as the case may be. On a semi-automatic pistol, we have the back strap, the grip panels, and sometimes they're removable and sometimes they are not removable. In your common 1911s, your old style 1911s, those wood grip panels will be removable. You can put new custom ones on or change them out depending on how your fit is or how your style, how you like your style. Okay? You've got a mag release button right here. That's usually going to be on the left hand side of the firearm in the right hand. As I hold it here, that's right here where my thumb pops. Let's talk about the grips. The frame, we have a back strap here. This is a 3rd generation Glock. It does not have interchangeable back strap in this case. The 4th generation does. I do like the 4th generation. It has a front strap, grip panels, trigger guard, as the other one does as well. Trigger guard, slide, as you can see here, We'll field strip this shortly and discuss that as well. On top of the slide, as part of the action, we have the front post, the rear sights, or rear channels, rear post, depending on your terminology. We have an ejection port right here. This ejection port is what throws out the spent rounds. Okay? You have on the action, you have the trigger, which is right here. You'll notice the main safety on a trigger, this is called the trigger safety, on a Glock, is a little kind of a notched item that goes in the middle of the trigger right here and pops up against this plastic portion when the trigger is pulled, not touching that trigger lock. Okay. We have the magazine release, which is, in this case, in my right hand on the left side of the grip panels. So pop that out. Magazine here, they're interchangeable. Okay. They're also extendable. It locks inside there, and you can get a magazine that is high capacity if you need it. Okay. Let's talk about field stripping. Now that the trigger is pulled, we can field strip this and take the barrel out. I want to show you the barrel of a semi-auto. If you take a look here, the slide contains a slide spring right here, a barrel here, and the slide. 3 parts. That's it. So let's talk about the barrel. One thing that I didn't talk about in a single action and a double action revolver is the rifling inside the barrel. You're not going to be able to see it, but maybe I can bring it close enough where you can take a look at it. What I want to show you now is a Bursa 380. If you'll notice, we'll go over the parts of the Bursa 380, which is very similar to the Glock and very similar to the Ruger SR9C, with one pretty predominant feature is that this little Bursa has a hammer. Has a hammer spur. It also has, on the frame, we have the back strap, the front strap, the grip panels. These are interchangeable. We can take them out with screws. You'll see screws on either side. These can be replaced if they get broken. I've already had to replace one. They have 2 screws on each side. Tightening the screws too tight will split those wood pieces right down the middle. Okay. The trigger guard, we have a slide here. I can pop the mag release and then cycle that slide forward again. That's a safety feature. Inside the slide, real easy here, let me show you how this works. We have what's called a takedown lever. This takedown lever allows me to pull this takedown lever down, out, pull the slide back, lift it up, and bring it forward, just like this. Okay? The slide has one part itself. The barrel on this handgun right here, as you can see, is right here. The rear part, this thicker part right here, that is built substantially different to withstand the pressures, probably about 14 to 16,000 pounds per square inch. Has rifling. This is the chamber. This is the muzzle. This is the slide spring. The slide spring actually goes right over the barrel. You'll see here, this is a interesting little fact. You'll see most handguns will have what's called a slide ramp, or a for whatever you got. It's used for loading the round into the chamber there. We're going to take the slide. We're going to put the spring into it. We're going to bring it back all the way to the rear. Bring it on. Let it go forward. If I drop the magazine, it will cycle forward. Notice the hammer is back now. I have a decocking mechanism on the left side where my thumb is. I'm going to go ahead and depress that. I want you to watch the hammer. It's going to be right on my sleeve. That's a decocking mechanism. Some semi-automatic firearms have a decocking mechanism. Some do not. Every shot that you take is going to require 5 things. First, aiming. And aiming consists of 2 components: sight alignment and sight picture. The second thing is trigger control. And trigger control is that portion of the 5 fundamentals of shooting that you're going to be required to perform, pulling that trigger nice and slow. I'll go over the aim here in just a second. Number 3 is breath control. Whether you hold a deep breath, whether you let some out and relax it, whether you hold your breath during the shot, and we'll discuss that as well. The fourth one is hold control. Hold control is basically how you handle a firearm. When you handle a firearm, be prepared to hold that firearm in the same exact way every single time. Semi-automatic pistols are held one way and revolvers are held a different way. The last, number 5 of the 5, is that called follow-through. And follow-through is simply taking all 4 of those steps before, during, and immediately after each shot is taken. I want to talk briefly about hold control and how you handle a semi-automatic pistol versus a revolver. Let's discuss a revolver first. We'll use this .44 Magnum right here. The first thing you want to do is grab it with your offhand. Take the V of your hand and put it up high on the back of the back strap on the grip, as high as you can get it. With your 3 fingers, place them under the trigger guard. With your index finger on the frame right here, okay? Pointed downrange, your left hand fingers are going to go right on top of the right hand fingers with your thumb crossed over the thumb on the right hand. Basically what you have here, this is a potential for a single action revolver that you can actually pull the trigger in this case and fire it. Here. Okay? Keeping the finger out of the trigger guard now, this is the proper hold control for a revolver. Now, no matter what type of handgun you're using, be sure and use the same hold on the handgun each and every time. This develops a consistency, more or less a muscle memory, so that you can keep your shots on target in a much smaller group than you would otherwise. Hold control is very important when you're holding a handgun. With a semi-automatic pistol, it's slightly different, but you're going to grip it in your offhand, take that V and put it as high up underneath that lip as you can. Some semi-automatic pistols have this lip right here. That's for that V right there. It's just where your hand needs to go. The 3 fingers on the right hand, if you're a right-hand shooter, go right under the trigger guard right here. The 4 fingers on the left hand go in front of the 3 fingers on the right hand, and your left thumb will grasp or be placed right here on the frame, as you can see, right here on the frame. This helps you steady the firearm when you're ready to fire. Okay. Hold control, again, is a very important aspect of the fundamentals of shooting. Let's talk about breath control for just a minute. Breath control is taking a deep breath, letting out about half of your breath right before the shot is fired as you're pulling back on the trigger and receiving that surprise break. You'll take a deep breath, let out about half of it, pull the trigger back slightly, holding your breath until the shot's fired. That'll be one of the questions on the test. Briefly, sight alignment and sight picture are the 2 parts of aiming. Sight alignment is merely holding the sights in a certain relationship to each other. the front sight versus the rear sight. In this case, you can see this is sight alignment right here, moving it left or right. Here, this will be looked at as our rear sights, and this will be the front sight. So basically, it's that kind of scenario, the relationship between the two. Sight picture is merely how the target looks at the end of your muzzle. Your focus should be on the front sight rather than on the rear sight. Your rear sights should be slightly out of focus, and your front sight or front post should be in focus, while your target should be slightly out of focus. I'm concerned about the differences or the different types of ammunition malfunctions that one might run into, and I'll try to discuss those. The first one is called a misfire. A misfire is simply the failure of the ammunition to fire or detonate at all. And when you have a misfire in your firearm, you're not going to know whether it's a misfire or whether it's a hang fire, which I'll discuss in just a second, until several seconds after the fact. With that in mind, let me discuss the first two and explain the differences between the two. The misfire, again, is the failure of the ammunition to detonate or fire. A hang fire is a perceptible delay in the detonation or the firing of the ammunition. Now, I'm going to show you a video here in a second of a hang fire accident with a shotgun, and a young man that decided to do nothing more than look down the barrel when his ammunition didn't fire. It's not graphic, don't worry, you'll be fine. The hang fire is a perceptible delay. So, in order to determine whether or not you have a hang fire or misfire, your goal is to point that firearm downrange for approximately 30 seconds until the shot either doesn't detonate or does detonate. Based on this video that you're going to see exactly why you want to point it downrange as opposed to looking down the barrel. Never look down the barrel. Now, what causes a misfire? There's a number of things that can cause a misfire. Dirty ammunition, old ammunition, wet ammunition, ammunition that was subjected to solvents during cleaning your firearm. One of the things that I got to stress is you can avoid that by having your ammunition in a completely separate area than your while you're cleaning your firearm. So you'll see me blinking here a little bit because I don't have ear protection and I have shooters right next to me, and I'm doing the best that I can with that. But we're out here on the range. That's what we do out here. Third type of malfunction is called a squib load, and a squib load happens when there's insufficient pressure inside the case to push the bullet down the barrel. That could be caused because of a primer, only a primer, no charge, no main charge, where the manufacturer failed to charge the cartridge. Could be because of, again, solvents. We had the fouling of the main charge inside the cartridge, which caused just the primer to go off. Now sometimes a primer will go off and that'll be enough pressure inside the cartridge to just dislodge the bullet from the cartridge and push it down the barrel where it gets stuck. Generally speaking, the pressures that occur inside of a barrel, inside of a cartridge, are anywhere from 15 to 30,000 pounds per square inch. And that cartridge can explode if you have the back pressure of a squib load already lodged in the barrel. If you've heard of the term barrel bulge, I'll show you a picture of it right here so you can see what barrel bulge is. If you look right in the center of that barrel, you'll see the bulge of where a squib load was lodged, and then another bullet was shot behind it. Another cartridge was fired behind it, creating that barrel bulge and that super intense high pressure and whatnot from the gases of the cartridge. So that creates a barrel bulge. The worst case scenario is a high-powered rifle. You can have a squib load in there and fire another one, and that will completely split that barrel wide open, cause major damage. It'll look a lot like a banana peel when you peel it down like that. I've seen pictures of that. We'll probably have one on the video here in a second so you can take a look at that. Alright, so what I've done here is created what's called a complex malfunction, or a stovepipe. Basically, this round here, if I can show it to you, this case has failed to eject out of the ejection port here, and it's stuck right in the ejection port right there. So I'm going to put in a full magazine and attempt to fire and show you how to clear this. Same exact scenario in the Glock 40 right here. Okay, stovepipe stuck right there. Okay, we're going to start just firing. No fire, tap, rack, clear it, go. That's all there is to that. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. This is just to show you that it doesn't matter which semi-automatic handgun you use, the technique is the same. So I've got the stovepipe stuck right here. No fire, tap, rack, go. Similar situations with both handguns, and you can clear the magazine, clear the malfunction by use of tap, rack, and go, or fire. Now I've created a different malfunction here. This is caused because the magazine is not set in the magazine well properly. This is where the tap helps seat that magazine well. You'll see that I'll fire one round with the Ruger SR9C at first, and then there won't be any firing after that. Well, we've got nothing. So first thing to do is tap, rack, and go. That tap, rack, and go, you have to know this like it's second nature to you. Same thing right here with the Glock 40 caliber. Tap, rack, and go. Accidents are when you cannot control what's going on. In my book, the way that I teach, you are able to, if you follow these rules, you are able to completely take care of and eliminate all accidents. Accidents, or negligence in this case, firearms incidents. All accidental discharges can be avoided, which then makes them non-accidents. They occur because of negligence, carelessness, inability to operate, ignorance, and misinformation. A safety is a mechanical device and can fail. That's a test question. I'm going to show you a Ruger SR9C right now. I'm going to show you a couple of safety features on the Ruger SR9C. First, we have a trigger safety. This little button that kind of sticks out in front of the trigger. so that in the event the trigger is pulled inappropriately, digging it out of the holster or whatnot, if this is not pressed, the trigger will not fire. The trigger will not release the firing mechanism or the firing pin. Secondly, we have a button. This is called the thumb safety right here. Okay. Now, all handguns, all semi-automatic pistols do not have a thumb safety. My Glock here does not have a thumb safety. All I'm trying to do is impress upon you that a safety can fail. It's mechanical, and I'm going to show you that video of a young man that trusted too much in his safety and has a little accident.
And then you have it to safe, which is a normal safe. Yeah, I guess it's unsafe. Alright. So on safe, your gun will not shoot. I mean, it won't go off. See, I could point it at my foot and like, it wouldn't go off.
Ammunition is made up of 4 main parts: the case, the bullet, the primer, and the charge. Take this right here. You can kind of see it. I'll bring it up close. This is a 38 special round. You'll see the case right here. The primer will be the small part in the center. The small cup filled with gunpowder and compressed inside and pressed inside of the case. The bullet here, mistakenly, this cartridge is often called a bullet. It is not a bullet. This is the bullet. This is the case. This is the primer. Inside is the charge. The firing sequence of a round, firing pin hits the primer right here, indents the primer. The primer causes the charge to go into the main charge inside the case, burn the powder inside here, expands under high pressures anywhere from 15,000 to 35,000 pounds per square inch, pushes the bullet down the barrel through rifling and out the muzzle. Always store your ammunition in a cool, dry place. Keep it free of solvents. Keep it free of water. I hunt a lot. I walk in the rain a lot. I have a small pack that has, it's an ammunition case for a 30-06, and as I walk in the rain, the oils from the leather and the water from the rain kind of mix up and creates this phenomenon right here. You can kind of see it. It's kind of a greenish, nasty looking junk on there. This ammunition right here needs to be thrown away, but I keep it as a visual aid here so you guys can see. Where do we find the ammunition designation? We can take a round here, a cartridge, and look at the bottom of the cartridge. This is called the head stamp, and the manufacturer's designation is on there along with the caliber of the bullet. Okay. Another place to find this is on the handgun itself. Now this right here is nothing more than a blue gun, but I can show you with this Glock replica exactly where you're going to be able to find the caliber designation, and we'll describe as to why we want to do this. There's the ejection port right here. A lot of times there will be a 9mm or a .40 or .45 ACP or some kind of stamp designating the type of round that goes there. You can also find it right here. It'll say Glock 27 or Glock 22, the model number of the firearm itself, and then right behind it or right in front of it will say .40 or .45 or 9mm. Okay. Another designation, simply look on the manufacturer's box. It says right here, 38 Special plus P. Now let's talk about plus P real briefly before we go any further. Sometimes firearms will allow for the designation of plus P. Plus P just means increased pressure inside the cartridge when it's fired. And you know, when a cartridge is fired, we're talking about pressures in excess of 15,000 pounds per square inch. Could be upwards of 35,000 pounds per square inch, depending on the round, depending on whether it's a 9mm, a 22, 300 Winchester, 300 Win Mag, you know, it just depends. But barrels are built specifically to withstand those pressures that are designated on those firearms. If you attempt to fire a plus P round in a firearm that is not designated for plus P, you run the risk of exploding or tearing open or fracturing somehow that barrel. We do not want to use a plus P cartridge in a firearm that is designated not to use plus P. That would be like using a .357 Magnum in a .38 caliber handgun. The pressures that we're dealing with are anywhere from 15,000 to 35,000 pounds per square inch. Those barrels that are designated for that particular ammo is built strong enough to withstand the type of ammunition that's designated for that firearm and nothing more. If we end up using a .357 Magnum in a .38, again, we run the risk of splitting open that barrel. Our hands are right there. If we're holding the firearm, our hand is right here. This thing could split. I have a picture of an individual that had a discharge on his firearm where the barrel blew open and tore his hand open. In talking about ammunition storage, I want to discuss carrying it or keeping it in a cool, dry place, making sure that it's away from moisture, making sure that it's away from solvents, keeping it away from firearms, and maintaining it in the manufacturer's box. The reason we need to maintain it in the manufacturer's box, you know, you look at a 9mm or a .380 or a .40 or a .32, somewhere in that area, a lot of those rounds look somewhat similar to the untrained eye, unless you're actually looking for it. Those rounds look similar enough where if you dump them in a box or something, or in a bag, a plastic bag, you may just end up getting them confused and loading them into the wrong firearm. That could cause a bad day, so we don't want to do that. Keep them in a cool, dry place, lock them separately and completely away from the firearms that are in storage. In your case, your goal for concealed carry is to maintain your concealed carry firearm in ready condition. It's going to be loaded with one in the chamber, with one in the magazine, with all 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, depending on your revolver that you have, in the chambers and in the cylinder itself. So yes, you want to have one in the chamber at all times when you're carrying concealed. As a concealed carry permit holder, you can carry at big box stores like this. The misconception is that you cannot carry in an airport. However, you can carry in public areas in the airport. As a concealed carry permit holder, you are not prohibited from carrying a concealed handgun on public transportation like these buses behind me. You can also carry in cabs or city shuttles. But the question then becomes, is the cab or shuttle private property? If it's private property and owned by a separate company, then whatever laws or rules or regulations they enact, whether or not they allow you to carry concealed on their vehicles, that's what you have to go by. Oregon concealed carry permit holders are allowed to carry on car lots. However, it might be private property, so know the private property's rules and regulations before you carry. You can carry in restaurants like McDonald's. I'm often asked if you can carry at banks. Banks are okay to carry at too. If they're not private property, they are premises open to the public. You can carry as a concealed permit holder in a bank. You can carry concealed at restaurants like Outback, hotels, motels, and resorts. City parks and public parks, you're able to carry with a concealed permit. Small grocery stores like this. Office buildings are not off limits to concealed carry permit holders. Now, places like Sportsman's Warehouse sometimes have special rules. If you go inside with a concealed carry on your hip or under your jacket or anything, you're not required to show it. After all, you're doing concealed carry. Sometimes, however, if you're going in to look at firearms or look at some accessories for your firearm, you're sometimes asked to clear your firearm or present it at the front desk, or at least let customer service know that you have it so that it can be made safe or cleared. Now, malls are a different bird altogether. Malls are both premises open to the public and they are private property. This one is owned by General Properties or General Growth Management, and they have signs up on the front of their doors in the mall that indicates no weapons, no handguns, no firearms of any kind inside. Now, since it's private property, they have the right to designate whether or not you bring in a concealed handgun. There's a trespass issue if you do that. So malls, you have to be careful of. They are premises open to the public. They are also private property. Watch what they say and adhere to their rules. Public areas, fountains, city parks, grocery stores are premises open to the public. You can carry at them too. I want to take a minute and talk about public schools versus private schools. Public schools do not have authority to prohibit a concealed carry permit holder from carrying their concealed handgun on school grounds. Private schools are a whole different situation. This is a public school behind me. Medford Public Schools cannot prohibit you from carrying a concealed handgun on school grounds. Where can't I carry? I'm often asked, can we carry at private schools? Private schools have their own special rules, and you have to abide by those rules. If they've posted them, it's your responsibility to be aware of those rules that they enact at private schools. Justice buildings, like the one behind me here, they have metal detectors. They prohibit concealed carry in justice buildings in different counties. Offices like BLM prohibit you from carrying concealed. Post offices are federal buildings. You are prohibited from carrying a concealed handgun in a federal building. Let's recap. Where can you carry? You can carry in public areas in the airport. You can carry in public buildings. You can carry in department stores, large grocery stores, premises open to the public, and private property unless otherwise noted. Where can't you carry? You cannot carry in federal buildings, post offices. You can't carry in jails. You can't carry in courtrooms. Can't carry in FBI buildings, Social Security Administration buildings. One thing that I'm not going to do on this video is discuss with you the use of force continuum, when you can and can't shoot. Not a lawyer. I suggest you get in touch with a licensed lawyer or an attorney and find out for yourself what is good for you, what is not good for you based on the Oregon Revised Statutes. On this website, just go to the ORS link and you'll find all of the Oregon Revised Statutes for 161 and 166. You'll find those Oregon Revised Statutes. I'm going to leave that up to you to take the time and do that on your own. So you might ask, now what's the next step? What do I do now? Well, now that you've watched the video, one of the things that you want to do is take 10 or 15 minutes and take this little quiz. It's 25 questions, and you'll be notified of whether you have a pass or a fail on this, and you'll be taken to our payment page. But let's assume you now have your certificate and you've printed it off. What do you do now? You'll take your certificate in hand and take a trip down to the local sheriff's department, or some sheriff's departments will require an appointment for you to do that. I think Multnomah County requires an appointment. So you'll take your certificate down to the sheriff's office and you'll pay particular fees. $50 fee for the license and another $15 fee for the background check, which is done through your fingerprint. Thank you for your time. Thanks for watching our video, and enjoy the Second Amendment.